Hello, everyone, and welcome to SC Spooky Adventures Podcast, where we discuss everything paranormal. We're your hosts. I'm Janine Haynes.
And I'm Michelle Myers. In each episode, we'll share our experiences, dive into paranormal lore, plus bring you exciting guests. And today we're talking about UFOs and how the government now openly acknowledges them, which I think is pretty cool. And Janine, I'd like to kick it off by asking you, what do you think about UFOs, real or fake?
So, I definitely believe that there's something else out there, that these UFOs that we're seeing could be alien life or maybe spirits coming in from other realms. But I definitely believe there's something out there.
Yeah, and then it's definitely, I mean, I think it's pretty cool that, like official channels, like I say official channels are now acknowledging it because before it was always what is it, Area 51, was it Area 51? Is that the
Yeah.
right number? 50 something. We heard about growing up, these, people in our age, Raggett did a little bit older and it was like deny, deny, deny. And then it seems like, gosh, so it's talking about in like 2020, maybe a little 2019, they actually start releasing officially releasing some video. And since it was formed last summer, the what's called the All Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, or AARO, and it was previously called the United Aerial Phenomenon Task Force. I know, a mouthful, and I'm sure I'm watching those a little bit. But anyway, they said that they received a report of 366 of what they call UAPs. So instead of saying UFO, they now call them unidentified aerial phenomena. Um, and actually, it was interesting. Some doing research for today's episode, some reports out there said 366, another said 510. I mean, that's a pretty big gap, but regardless, they say that this indicates a steep rise in sightings. But I say, does it really? I mean, for one, I keep seeing different numbers. And also, I don't think there's really more more sightings out there. It's just more reporting. And they kind of say that a little bit too. It's more reporting because now there's sort of an official channel, to collect and catalog and, look into this data. And I know a lot of it is talking about reports from, military personnel, but I don't know. I don't think there's more necessarily more. I think it's just more, they're trying to make it uh destigmatize military personnel actually reporting it. What are your thoughts on that?
I definitely agree that they're probably not increasing. What I did find interesting is that up until 1993, there was a huge gap of years where none of this stuff was even being shared with our presidents.
Mm,
So there was a man who was a surgeon. His name was Dr. Greer. And at one
hmm
point in time, they pulled him in 1993 and hired him on at the CIA. And so they wanted him to debrief President at the time, Clinton, on the UFOs because Clinton was looking into the stuff, but they weren't giving him access to any of it, which is crazy to me. That's your
I
president
know.
and it's being
Yeah.
kept from him. And so this is how he ended up in the CIA and working with the UFO department. Now, he recently, because his non-disclosure finally came to an end after all these years, started speaking out. And I believe that's why in 2020, the Pentagon started to release some of those videos because there was too many high up officials that were pretty much proving what he was saying and giving the same stories.
Yeah, it is interesting how they've shifted, like I was saying a few minutes ago, where instead of, trying to deny and cover up, uh they're making it more, I guess you could say, official. And of course the AERO doesn't just look at objects, in the sky, even though one of those A's is aerial. They're also looking at objects in, in the ocean, and what I think a lot of us have heard called USO, unidentified submergible objects, things that seem to be able to go right from land right to the air, I mean the water, and back out again. Like back in 2004, there was a document account of a U.S. Navy fighter pilot and his other crew member spotting an unusual object just off the Southern California coast that was disrupting the surface of the ocean. They called it roiling, which was a term I didn't even know before I looked that up, but disturbing the surface of the water and then emerged from it. And it was a roundish, oblong object that didn't seem to have any kind of flight control surfaces. And that was back in 2004. I think it was talked about back
Wow.
then, but it wasn't anything official for sure.
Yeah, what's interesting about that one from 2004 is some photos did emerge at that time, that people were showing where the water, when it was coming out with the tide, there was actually some weird underground tunnels under Malibu that
Oh,
couldn't be
interesting.
explained. So they were trying to find out if it was like a hidden military base or was it something else?
Yeah.
Because it's very similar area to where those underwater things were coming out and going up into the sky.
And in preparing for this episode, another set of videos I rewatched were the UF videos the Pentagon officially released in 2020, though they'd been floating around on the internet since I think about 2017. There's a series of 3 videos they'd put together, and I think the first one was from 2004. The most recent one of those series of 3 was from 2015, and the other was somewhere in between, obviously. And they show, I mean, they're kind of grainy, especially the one from 2004. It's kind of grainy, and then the more recent one is a little bit sharper. And that one shows something flying like right over the surface of the water. But what I found was so compelling about those videos was not really the video aspect, but if you listen to the audio, it's the pilot and the and crew, their reaction. They're just flabbergasted. They're amazed, going, "Wow, did you see that? Are you getting that? Are you getting that?" And I don't know. I don't think you can fake that level of enthusiasm, and that seems to be pretty candid. It was fun to go back and watch those again. I loved it.
Yeah, it kind of did impress something on me watching and hearing the audio because their reactions were sheer shock. They could
Hmm.
not believe what they were seeing. And this is some of the first times that we actually heard military not talking about like one object in the air. It was clusters of them surrounding them and doing weird maneuvers. So to hear them react to that definitely impressed something on me for sure.
Yeah, and the thing on releasing those, like it's officially in 2020, like 2019, 2020, kind of seemed to be like the first sort of, I think, initial step on this new trend to, again, to try to destigmatize reporting. Like, here they are, here's footage, captured by some of our pilots. And then, we get to where we are today again with the rebranding called the AARO, and then they released, I think it was just last year, their first official government report. It's, I think, by the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, released its report on UAPs last year, and I'm sorry, in 2021. And it looks like it's going to be an annual report because I saw that there's another one for 2022. So I guess they're going to have one, updates come out each year. And of course, they were saying over half of those, I think it was the 366 I mentioned at the beginning, reports were balloons. But of course, with the recent, things coming out of China and the balloons that, we saw over West and other countries, it's not surprising. We're not seeing the weather balloons, but we know there's, balloons being used. But then the other half, many of the others, they don't know. They can't attribute. They're not saying that there's alien life yet, but there's a lot of the cases out there that they don't have an explanation for. So who knows?
Exactly. And I think that part of the reason why the government's being a little bit more upfront now is I don't know if it was 2020, 2019, when people were threatening to raid Area 51 and kind of storm it and try to get in to see what's going on. because even if they do have UFOs on that site, I'm sure they have other stuff that they don't need us trying to storm and get access to. So I think that by being a little bit more open with the UFOs or the other way that you were saying,
UAPs.
yeah, um, that will maybe calm down some of the people trying to sneak in there, because now they're being a little bit more honest. They did actually just post recently the annual 2022 videos, and there was three main ones. And the interesting one that I found was something that crashed in Antarctica that
Mm,
definitely looked like some of those spaceships that people claim to be seeing. So the lights were
the
kind of swirling in a circle, and then next thing you know, the thing crashed down. And the photos from satellite do show part of that circular thing stuck into the ice.
Now, was it one of the ones they call the Tic Tac? The long white, almost sort of like they're bigger than coffins, but those long narrow ones I've heard some called Tic Tacs. It looks like a giant flying Tic Tac in the sky.
Now this one was just more the round shape,
The more
like a frisbee.
the traditional. Okay.
Yeah, like the traditional. So they were able to share that photo, but the ones that were being shared that they captured over Baghdad were more of like a diamond shape, and they were moving in weird directions. So it wasn't like it was just moving forward or backward. They were going up and down and at diagonals and just kind of swooping around. So it wasn't normal movement for any of the planes that the military says that they have, at least according to Dr. Greer. He said that, the maneuvers that it was making, we don't have the capabilities to do that yet,
That we know of, right?
that we know of.
And that's the thing, for decades they've been saying, oh, it's new technology, such and such country has technology, or we have technology that they're testing and not using yet. But at some point, if we've had this technology for decades, why would they not be using it? At a certain point, you're going to deploy it, right? I mean, so
Right.
at least I would assume so. So that I think that excuse is kind of starting to wear thin because they've been saying that for so long. But
Dr.
but
Gurr actually claims that some of the newer technology using currently were from some of these crashed UFOs, that they were
yeah,
actually able to go inside, investigate, send engineers and people inside and recreate, if not make better, what we were seeing inside those devices that they found.
yeah, it'd be interesting. I mean, and who knows if there was such tech, it'd be great to see how it could, not just for warfare, but could it improve our daily lives as it is? Could it, you know, help us be more sustainable? Who knows? But it's an interesting time. Just we live in
Even
for
have
sure.
some of the astronauts that took part in the moon landing. One of the
Hmm.
gentlemen was saying that when they made their way towards the back side of the moon, the dark side area, that there was some weird stuff back there that they were told not to talk about. And they're
Oh,
just now starting to talk about it.
I remember, and I remember them saying before that they were told to say if they said anything, it was like there was some photo and they were trying to say it was like the reflection of a light from an interior light from the craft reflecting in the window or something like that, just grasping at straws, trying to give some reasonable explanation. But yeah. Yeah, it's pretty interesting what's coming out now.
Have you ever had any experiences where you thought you've seen a UFO?
No, I don't think so. I guess I'd remember if I did. My grandmother actually did. And, for my grandmother, and she is not one to, you would, if you knew, or well, she's passed, but if you'd ever met her, she's not someone that you would ever think would uh, say something like that. I mean, that was very uncharacteristic for her, but she was very adamant and she would talk openly about it, which was kind of surprised me, kind of cool. But no, I don't think I have. How about you?
I mean, I've seen some things where I thought, okay, what is that? But then later they were explained, like, the missiles being shot off from Vanderveer, or, meteors coming through the atmosphere. Driving down the freeway, I actually saw the weirdest thing kind of come through, explode, and like make this weird mushroom shape as it was kind of floating down towards the ground, which they
Oh,
later did say was a meteor, but it was very interesting while you're seeing it, because the colors on it were like turquoise and purple, and they were kind of
Ooh,
swirling. And so I was like, okay, what are we seeing? So I had to pull over to just kind of check it out.
okay.
But who knows? Like the news is saying, oh no, don't worry. It was just this. It was, a meteor. It was just that. What was it? Here in San Diego, and I'm not sure what other parts of California or the world, but having a lot of what they're calling sonic booms that are
Hmm.
unexplainable. So, what is with the uptake in those? Because some of the times that we're experiencing these, it's not while the military is saying that they're doing testing or drills. So they're
Yeah.
saying it's unexplained, that there's no known cause for it. So is that something to do with UFOs entering and exiting our atmosphere, or is the military keeping stuff from us? Who
Yeah,
knows?
you're right. There have been an increase. And now, surprisingly, I haven't experienced any of them myself, but I'll see, whenever one happens, I'll see a flurry of, comments on social media. And sometimes it's, people in kind of my immediate area. And I always think, well, where was I? What was I doing? Why didn't I hear that? But yeah, over the last few years, it seems there's been a significant increase in those for sure. And speaking of being, kind of in a military town, what I always thought was really interesting before, it became sort of like, we'll say, okay for the military to, talk about seeing these different things. I've heard firsthand accounts from military pilots that I've come across, sharing experiences of things they've seen. They're a little hush hush about it, but that was again hearing those firsthand accounts, those to me are always the most compelling.
And when it's coming from somebody in the military or, the CIA or whatever, I think it lends a little bit more credibility because they're
Hmm.
not really going to want to say something or make something up that's going to make them look silly. And then the fact that they have other members that are able to back them up saying, no, no, we were there, we saw it too. Just, I think it makes it a little bit more credible.
Oh, absolutely. And yeah, it definitely makes you wonder what's out there. Yeah, and Janine, I would love to do another episode down the road on, alien abductions. Hopefully we can find someone who has had that experience. I think it's clear you and I have not, but I have plenty of folks out there who have. But we would, definitely love to talk with someone who has had an account.
Yeah. So one of our viewers has felt like you've been abducted or had some paranormal experience with UFOs or aliens. Let us know in the comments. That way we can maybe interview you and see if you'd be a good fit to come on and explain what experience you did have with the UFOs or the aliens. That would be cool for viewers to be able to see.
Absolutely. And with that, Janine, can you share with everyone where they can find us to share those comments?
So definitely find us on YouTube under SD Spooky Adventures. That's where you guys can leave all your comments. We definitely read them all and we will get back to you. And if you do want to follow some of our other spooky adventures, you can find us on Facebook and TikTok also under SD Spooky Adventures.
All right. Well, thank you for listening in, and we'll catch you on your next spooky adventure.
See you next time.